Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Knit State of Mind podcast. Today is Saturday, January 11th, 2020, and we're back for the new year.
So happy New Year, everyone. I'm Heather.
I'm Wanda, and you can find us on Instagram as Knit State of Mind, on YouTube as Knit State of Mind, and then I'm also Zest in Class, Zest letter N Class on Instagram, and wandawat on Ravelry.
And I'm Heather Tee on Ravelry and Heather Tee Free on Instagram. So, as we said, Happy New Year to everyone. We hope you had a wonderful New Year. What did you do for New Year's?
So we went out of town. My partner and his kids and his brother and their family. We rented a house at Lake, and we brought in the new year there. We had some great food and played some games. The house had pool table, ping pong, a pinball machine. What do you call it? The jukebox. It even had a jukebox.
Wow, that's cool.
It was a throwback to the 80s.
Yeah.
So we had a good time, and we stayed about 5 days. Bass Lake is about 15 miles south of the Yosemite Valley, so we got to go out to Yosemite, and
beautiful.
There wasn't much snow, but it was beautiful scenery. Caught some waterfalls and everything. What about you?
Nice. I just stayed around here. I had been up in Oregon visiting my family for Christmas, and then I just was around here for New Year's and working on craft projects, and went out with some friends, which I'll talk about a little bit more when I show one of my whips.
Cool. So here we are in the new year, still working on Clear the Needles 2020, and then I think, Heather, you're participating in the Stash Down 2020, so we'll talk a little bit about our progress with that. I just have some whips, a couple of whips. I have 2 whips, and I think, do you have some?
I have like
FOs?
4. I have 1 FO and then 4 or 5 whips because I've been kind of unfocused and all over the place with my crafting.
Yeah.
But that's fine. That's how it is sometimes.
I don't know if it's the holiday season or what, but I've been working on the cardigan and then kind of just all over the place, a bit unsure about what to cast on, but wanting to cast something on. But finally something caught my attention, so I'll talk about that in a bit too.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we get started with FOs?
Yes, tell us. No. I want to know what you're wearing.
Okay, yes. So, as you guys know, Wanda is knitting a burnt orange sweater, which she'll be showing you a little bit. So, I also love burnt orange, so I decided to bring out one of mine. So, this is the Fuse by Veronik Avery. This is an older Brooklyn tweed pattern from one of their early Wool People collections. So, I'll stand up to show it a little bit. I did not knit this out of Brooklyn tweed yarn. I knit it out of Lorna's Laces Shepherd Worsted in the colorway Courage. So it's kind of an interesting construction. It has like wraps around and buttons back here behind the neck. But it's a really nice lace pattern. I think I made this in 2015. And I used to wear it a lot and haven't actually been wearing it recently. So I actually had to look up on my Ravelry page my notes to myself about how to button it. But normally because it gets too warm, I normally wear it unbuttoned, more like this with like waterfall. Is that what it's called? Waterfall fronts? So you can see the nice.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. So I love this pattern, and I used to knit, well, I don't know if I actually knit them or just collected them, but a lot of Veronik Avery patterns. In the days before Ravelry, she used to have a lot of patterns published in like Interweave, and she has a couple books that I bought at that time.
Yeah.
So anyway, I really enjoy her patterns, and I'm sure you can still find them in lots of places. So
I think it's such a cool knit. I wonder if that's something she does often, where you have multiple ways that you can wear the garment, pinned back and hanging like that. I like the versatility, multiple outfit choices like that, right?
Definitely. I don't know. I mean, I would have to look back because it's been a while since I did one of her patterns, but I do know she's always been very fashion forward and had like interesting stuff that she's designing. So
I remember when I first was getting back into knitting, I went and stalked your Ravelry page, and I scrolled through, and this caught my attention right away. I don't know, I may have left you a message.
You did. I actually saw it today when I went to look up how to button it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Wanda commented on this a year ago or something.
It's a good one. Love the color choice. Love the color choice.
Cool. So
now on to, you have a finished object,
I do have
right?
a finished object. So my finished object is my first thing for Clear the Needles 2020, which we have someone in our Ravelry group who recently posted an update the other day and has already finished 3 whips. So I apologize, I don't actually know your real name because the Ravelry name is like a combination of letters, but thank you for posting. That really inspired me to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And we also have Jean from Instagram who posted using the hashtag the other day too. So I was like, I gotta get something up there with this hashtag. So
Yes.
my goal for Clear the Needles is to finish one smaller project and one bigger project from my whips from last year every month. So this is the smaller project I picked. The bigger project is my blue cabled sweater, which Wanda came over the other night and we were knitting. And we got picked buttons for it, so I'm that much closer.
Yes.
But this small project is one that I actually forgot to show on our whip parade because it was in a little tiny bag that was like at the bottom of a box and I just missed it. So I am making the cupcake from the Happy Snacks, although my cupcakes do not have eyes on them. Oh my god. You
mean you didn't want to personify it?
I didn't want to personify the cupcakes. I'll tell you why in a minute. But this is from the book Amigurumi World, Seriously Cute Crochet. And the author is Paula Rimoli. And I have made some other patterns from this book. I made the monkey with the dress on. I made that monkey a while ago. And I really want to make these fruits at some point, so that might be coming.
That's so cute.
But these were cupcakes, and the reason they were in the whip pile is that when I was a classroom teacher, which I'm a school administrator now, but when I was a classroom teacher, I used to always do something for the kids for their birthday. So sometimes I would take them out to ice cream or take them out to lunch, like at the restaurant across the street from school or whatever. But one year I decided to crochet everybody cupcakes.
So sweet.
So I did like assembly line where I would make all the bottoms and then put the tops on in their favorite colors, and I just had some extra cupcake bottoms hanging around. So I decided to finish those up. So there's a yellow one. They're all chocolate, but they have different colors.
Chocolate.
A teal frosting. So that's why they're not personified.
They look
because
yummy.
They were initially
actually.
made as birthday.
Yeah.
And
they look yummy.
Yeah. So I made these out of some just scrap yarn that I had, soft yarn held double with a 3mm crochet hook. And a couple changes I made from the pattern is the pattern. Sorry, our light is not great today because it's a little later in the afternoon than we usually record. But yeah, I think you can see it. So you can see there's a little ruffle there around the edge of the frosting. So the pattern says to make the bottom and the top separately and then sew them. But what I actually did is when I got down here to like the last row before the ruffle, I crocheted the top together with the bottom by crocheting through the front loops of both. And then I added the ruffle, and then I stuffed it, crocheted up the last few, and then added the ruffle. So that way I didn't have any finishing to do at the end.
Nice. Brilliant.
And I did stick a few pennies here in the bottom to make them stand up. Because otherwise they just kind of
that's a nice tip.
Roll around. Yeah. So I'm going to use these for, I have some nieces and nephews. I have 6 nieces and nephews. 3 of them are older and wouldn't be as excited probably to get a crochet cupcake for their birthday. But the younger ones, I'm going to, usually I just put like a little toothpick with a little happy birthday flag and send those off to the nieces and nephews. And my first niece that has a birthday this year, it's next week, so I got to get one of these in the mail.
All right.
So,
and so do you crochet or knit 3D objects pretty often? How do you feel about them?
I don't actually do it that often because I don't enjoy crocheting. I enjoy crocheting more than knitting little toys like that because the finishing is easier. Typically, it's not as, you only have one stitch on the hook, and I find it easier to finish them, and I don't like the fiddliness of like knitting any little bitty tiny pieces.
Got it.
So I go in waves.
Yeah. I've just seen different podcasts where people were making gnomes. I think even one of them had a mystery gnome along. That may have been the charm of it. And so I've been a bit curious about it. A little cute.
Yeah, the designer, Imagine Landscapes, I think she designs a bunch of those.
Yeah.
So I have some of those in my queue. So.
Oh, cool. Let us know if you knit or crochet 3D figures. Something I'm curious about.
Cool. Yeah. So what have you been working on?
So you don't have any more epos?
I don't have any more epos. That's my only epo.
So I've pretty much been pretty monogamous with my knitting. I'm still enjoying making the Levenwick cardigan by Gudrun Johnston. I'm using, as a reminder, the yarn that it calls for, which is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the Embers color. And so last time we were on here, I was done with the collar, and so I made a few modifications as per comments that were on Ravelry, and so I added a few rows to the yoke, to the collar, to the yoke, to make the collar stand up higher. So this isn't a part of the design, but there are some purl bumps there. I think it works fine. And then I had casted on 94 stitches, and so I had to increase up to the total number of stitches the designer asked me to start with for my size. And so that's the modification. I recently separated for the sleeves, and so I have to do this for a bit before I actually think I just separated, and then I have to do some decreases in a bit. What else about this? I'm enjoying the yarn.
Yeah.
It's nice to knit with. And one thing too is about the yarn, related to the yarn, Heather recently taught me how to spit splice. And so that is thrilling because that means I won't have, you can see, for whatever reasons, I have these random ends to weave in, but no more of this for the rest of this project for the most part, because spit splicing this yarn, you're able to, it can felt, so you're able to rub them together and have some
no ends.
Just keep going without any ends. So that is very exciting for me. Yeah.
And you were also saying the other day that you were really enjoying the purling.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Which I think is unusual. So comment below if you're weird like Wanda and you like to purl better than you like to knit.
It's odd. I think it's odd because, I feel like I'm purling faster than I'm knitting, and I'm able to purl without looking. So it's something about how I feel my way through purling. I can tell what's going on without actually looking at it. So let us know. Is there anyone else?
Weird. Everyone's different.
Exactly.
I get that.
Is there anyone else out there who can relate to me? It's okay if not, but it'd be nice to know if you enjoy purling.
Okay, hi everybody, we're back. We've been having some technical difficulties with our sound quality, so we had to switch from recording on Wanda's phone to recording on my phone, which is older, and so that's why now the picture quality is not as good, but whatevs.
We're making it work. It's all good.
Hopefully you stuck with us and that the sound is better now that we're on the other device. So we're moving on to whips. This is the Adiantum by Kelly Ordemann that I have been working on for my mom. So after the last video, I was kind of right here above the color work. And so for a few days I whipped around doing the decreases and increases for the shaping for this. But then I got up to here, which is pretty close to the underarm, and realized that I think it's going to be too big. So I put it on 2 needles to measure it. It is in fact a little too big. To fix that, I'm just going to pull back and knit it with a smaller needle because the color work is the right size. And typically I don't need to use different needles for color work and plain knitting, but I guess for this yarn I do. So I also wasn't that happy with the shaping. This pattern has the shaping in here in the center rather than on this. It's kind of hard to see because our light's so bad now, but whatever. There's shaping here rather than on the sides. And I just wasn't sure how that would look on my mom. And so after talking to her and looking at some sweaters that she likes, most of them actually don't have shaping, even though she initially thought that she would want that. So I'm just going to pull back and knit it without shaping, and hopefully by next episode I'll be back on track.
Sounds like a plan.
With the Adiantum. Oh my gosh, we have such glare on our glasses too.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for bearing with us. The next thing I worked on it was New Year's. So as I mentioned, I went out with some friends and we like to go to this bar here in town that does New Year's on Greenwich Mean Time, which for us is like 4 p.m. because we live on the west coast of the United States. So it's awesome. We go like around 1 o'clock at a table.
Day party.
Hang out. And then at 4, it's like Happy New Year. They have a bagpiper that comes. And then by 4:30, we're all home in our pajamas, ready to celebrate the new year at home. So I knew I wanted something to knit while we were waiting, from 1 to 4. So I cast on the second one of my blue striped Ragg socks. So this is Paton's Kroy in the blue striped Ragg color. This is the other one that's already been completed, except for the heel. So I just cast on the rib that morning and then knit all this plain knitting basically while we were there on New Year's, and then I just put it away and haven't worked on it since. But
you got a lot done during your day party.
Yeah. And this is a nice just workhorse self-striping yarn. You can get it at Michael's, Joann's.
Yeah.
It's a little thicker, so I use size 1.5 or 2.5 millimeter needles where I normally use a 0. But yeah, so
I really like this self-striping yarn. I've been researching and trying to find some, and I haven't quite found any that I like yet. So if anyone has any recommendations, I would really appreciate that. Some yarns self-striping yarns that you've worked with and you enjoy, and that you know our color family or my color family. So if you have recommendations, please leave them for us.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to hear about some new dyers that I don't know about also for when I start buying yarn again, which we'll see when that is.
It's not far off if it's until Stitches West. February. Time's flying.
Yeah, time is flying. But speaking of that, I did decide to participate in Stash Down 2020, which is a hashtag on Instagram that was started by Brown Girl Knits, Brown Girl with a Y Knits. And a lot of people have been participating in this. We've been following the hashtag and getting really inspired.
Some cool stuff, yeah.
So the idea is that you look in your stash and you find yarn that you have for projects and kind of match up your yarn and your projects. So I found 12 sweater patterns that I already have the yarn for that I really want to make. So my goal is to make 6 of those this year.
I think that's kind of crazy. You have 12 sweaters worth of yarn in your stash.
I mean, a lot of it, the yarn is probably acquired over the course of like 10 years of stuff I was going to make and then just never did. And so anyway, so I'm really excited about that because there's a lot of stuff I've been wanting to make.
Yeah,
so.
And I look forward to seeing what you make.
Yeah.
6 sweaters this year. Just from your stash.
Just from my stash. I might make others, but that's my main goal. So I started off trying to make Ollivander's turtleneck. The yarn I had was a yarn I had gotten secondhand, and it was kind of from the 80s, I think. And so because of that, the yarn was kind of pulling apart. The yarn just wasn't in very good shape. And so I stuck with it. I got through the turtleneck and like down to the yoke. And I was like, you know what? I'm not enjoying knitting with this yarn that's breaking all the time. And I don't even know if I'm going to have enough. Like, forget it. So I tossed the yarn because it was maybe like an investment of like $15. I was like, I don't even care. Tossed it. I still have the pattern, so hopefully I'll start that again because I do really like that pattern.
It is a cool sweater. Yeah, I like it too.
But instead, I started a different turtleneck I've been wanting to make, which is that's not it. That's my mom's sweater. Here it is, which is the Piece of Silver, which is from the first issue of Lina magazine. So this is what the pattern picture looks like. It's just kind of a drapey turtleneck, and I am knitting it out of Loop Fiber Company, the Yin Yang fingering in the color Above, and it's
yummy
on brand. It's like a reddish orangish brown. So right now I'm just on the turtleneck, which is 10 inches of ribbing, so I'm over it at this point. But
You're almost there.
I'm almost there. I've been measuring it like every quarter inch. I'm at like 7 3/4 inches right now, but yeah. So, so I'm excited to get to the actual body part.
I can imagine.
Getting tired of it.
Yeah, that reminds me of when you run a marathon and you still have like 2 to 3 miles left, and people in the crowd are like, "You're almost there. Keep going." And I'm like, I am not almost there.
Right,
those 2 to 3 miles are brutal. So what do you have?
2 1/4 inches.
2 1/4 inches.
Oh my God,
when you're there, that's when you're there.
Yeah. So I have yarn for this. I had originally bought, so this yarn it's called yin yang fingering because there's
that, oh my God.
You know, so this one has 2 plies of the red, orange, and 1 of the gray, and then this has 2 of the gray and 1 of the orange, and they're kind of meant to go together.
Let's see.
So it's kind of showing up that one's but yeah. But I decided I wanted to do this turtleneck just only in this color, so I had to get an extra skein, an extra skein of yarn. So what I decided to do is I made my gauge swatch with both to see if I could tell the difference, if there was a difference between dye lots. There doesn't really seem to be.
Okay.
But just to be on the safe side, I'm going to do all the ribbing turtleneck cuffs hem with the one ball that's different, and then do the
that's smart.
Plain knitting with the balls that are the same, just to be really sure that you can't.
Yeah.
If you do see a little bit of a difference, it'll look like it's meant to be that way instead of accidental.
That's smart. Do they make that yarn in different weights?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
I'm gonna look that up. I'm really curious.
They have a booth at Stitches, so we can go see it in person. We're so excited about Stitches, you guys.
Yes.
And let us know. Comment below if you're gonna be there too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We're not sure yet quite when we're going, but
we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. What else are you working on?
So 2 more things. I also decided to go ahead and rip out my lace weight scrap scarf that I wasn't that thrilled about because I was knitting it with just one ply of the lace weight, and I did decide to double up the yarn. So I just cast on 100 stitches with the lace weight held double, knitting around and around and around and around.
I'm impressed. You figured out something to do with that lace yarn. Yeah. Nice.
So I'll share more about this and the colors and everything once I get it done, because it's not that interesting. It's just
you're just going around.
And then I kind of stopped knitting for a few days because I got really obsessed with making a cross-stitched toilet.
Well then.
So even though I don't normally show cross-stitch unless it's done, I wanted to bring that because that's what I've been mostly working on the last few days.
And you're obsessed with it, so hey.
Anything is better than that stinking ribbing that I've been knitting. So this is the I Still Love You pattern from the green issue of X Stitch magazine. And as you can see, it's going to be a green toilet with some like coral colored flowers.
Well then, okay. Never would have thought of that myself, but hey.
The designer is Leah Emery.
Yeah. Did they say what inspired that?
Yeah, it does. And you know, I barely even look at the write-up, but I did notice when I was flagging it today that she says that toilets are a metaphor for human waste on a larger scale. You've noticed that our once immaculate planet is being overrun with non-degradable disposable waste, among other evils. So this piece is a cry for help an optimistic cry for help to provoke all to make changes by reducing waste, engage in responsible shopping and consuming, and to encourage green renewal practices.
Okay. So that'll be something good to meditate on.
Yeah.
When it's done, and you're gonna put it up in your bathroom, right?
Yeah, and I have like kind of coral colored tile in my bathroom, so I think it'll look cool.
Yeah.
And I appreciate, even though I hadn't read that before today, like
there's some meaning there.
There is some meaning there, and I do try to tread lightly. So I think that's one of the reasons, honestly, that I'm
to the
trying
times we're living in.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it's one of the reasons I'm trying to not buy so much yarn.
Yeah. I hear you.
Because I don't, we have enough, right? We're really fortunate and we don't need to be consuming so much. So this is how far I am. So this is the tank of the toilet, most of the lid, and some of the flowers. So yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
At first I was like, a toilet. I like it.
So I've been enjoying it. And I brought how I'm storing my floss along because it is actually connected. Again, it was not intentional, but once I read that, it's connected to this idea of, using what we have. So I don't typically buy project bags. So for knitting, sometimes I do, but for cross stitch, I really don't. And I don't typically buy a lot of storage containers. I just try to use what I have. So I had this jewelry box some jewelry that was given to me as a gift came in, and it was the perfect size for me to line up all my different floss colors. And it even has a lid so that they don't fall out.
There you go.
So
recycle.
Yeah, I love that storage solution.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what I've got.
I thought you said 2 more. That's it?
Yes, one more. I did bring my granny stripe blanket that I forgot to show on my whip parade.
Oh, yeah, bust it out. Let's see.
So I'll show that real quick. I have just been making this.
This is like Whip Parade Part 2.
Whip Parade Part 2.
Feel like.
The lost whips.
There you go.
That's the bottom.
This is crocheted, right?
This is crocheted,
Yeah.
and actually, that's the
My
back.
grandma
This is
used
the
to.
front. I mean, you can't really tell the difference with crochet, but yeah. So I've
Loving it.
This is the granny stripe blanket pattern by Attic 24. The colors aren't totally showing up very true to life because of but it's a scrappy blanket, so it doesn't really matter. So I've been trying to alternate between like more bright and more muted every other row or two, I started a scrappy project like this a couple years ago and ended up tearing it out because I just didn't manage the colors very carefully, and I was like, I don't want that thing in my house. Like, I enjoy using up the yarn, but I don't want to look at that.
Yeah.
So this one I'm really trying to be careful about making sure it's something I really like aesthetically
keep it real.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Because I'm not actually really into like a super scrappy aesthetic. Like I know a lot of people are really into that and it looks great in their home, but for me that's not my style. So I want to make sure it's something I really enjoy.
No, I feel you.
Already, I kind of hate this row here with this green and gold.
You know, that one stood out to me the most. That's so crazy.
But by the time I decided I didn't like it, I was already all the way up here. And I'm an A's fan and I'm an Oregon Duck fan, so I'm like, I'll just leave it. And it's down at the bottom, so I can always just fold it and not have to look at it.
That's funny.
But so that's my granny stripe break that I
show this.
This is all the scraps that I'm using.
Yeah.
So again, these are mostly just leftover scraps from different socks or shawls that I've made over the years. And right now I'm kind of low on the, I have this, but I've already used it a few times on my more neutral colors. So I'm kind of waiting to get some more neutral colored scraps before I continue.
Got it. Okay.
So, and this is my old school crochet hook. I've tried using those ergonomic ones with the cushy, and I can't, I don't like it.
Keep it old school.
I'm 1970s crocheting over here.
Yeah. Reminds me of my granny's blankets. Yeah. I haven't crocheted in so long, but maybe I'll get back to it someday.
All right, you have one more whip.
I've been somewhat working on the socks as well, but I haven't made a ton of progress. Like I said, mostly the cardigan, but I did pick, I'm finding my mojo back with the Shifty now. So this is the Shifty Sweater by Andrea Mowry. I picked it back up. I'm using lamb strings yarn tralala sock. And so last time we were on, I showed you this color Ragg, which is my favorite. I want to make something else with it. I don't know what yet. But just so you can see that transition, I guess I'll show.
Oh, it's showing up nicely there.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started the little blip section in that color, and so I'll do a couple of sections and keep it going. So I'm trying to clear the needles of that one, and I have the cardigan. And then recently, well, within the last 2 days, I've been obsessing over another sweater. I just stumbled upon it. I think it was on Ravelry. It may have been on the homepage. I was like, I love that. And so I spent that. I was up until 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, let me tell you what it is. It is the Mara pullover by Irina Heeman. And it's written in German and English. And so this is what it looks like. This is the designer's, I don't know if that's going to show up.
Oh, there you go.
Right there. The designer's version of it. And then there's this other
There's
really
an orange one
gorgeous,
or coral or something, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So of course we like that
out. Yeah. So I really love, I think it has these angles and stitches going in different directions, and that appeals to me. And so it's knit with a silk cotton blend and then a mohair silk And so I was up until the night I found the pattern. I downloaded it, bought it and downloaded it right away. And I was up until like 2 o'clock in the morning looking for yarn for it. It's knit with Lang yarns, and I think that's a Swiss yarn company. And so I'm trying to figure out something comparable, because the DK weight yarn is 75% silk and 25% cotton. And I have a couple of options. I was looking at Harrisville yarns. They have a silk and wool, which is I think it's 50% wool, 50% silk. And then Heather, you told me about
silky wool from Elsbeth Lavold, which I've used before for a sweater, and it has it's also some kind of wool silk and something else combination that I think could work.
Yeah, and they had a couple of cool and so the designer used the tweed, and I like that tweed effect. Silky wool, the Elsbeth one, they had a couple that I like. The tweed is discontinued, but some people have it in their stash. So I'm considering their olive. They have an olive color, and then Harrisville has like a rusty color, and also a teal color.
Mark just walked in.
Yeah. And also a teal color. And then yesterday, the same thing happened. I fell asleep, but then woke up around 2 o'clock. I was out, went to the bar, etc. And couldn't fall back asleep, so I got caught into researching yarn again, but then forced myself to go back to bed. I've basically resolved at this point that I need to go...
you need to go see the yarn in person, right?
So I want to go yarn store hopping. There's 3 main yarn stores in the East Bay that I like, so I feel like I want to hop around from store to store and get a feel for the yarn and see what works. But I want to do it like yesterday, because I'm ready to cast on. I messaged the designer and everything. It's my first European design, so once I started looking at it, I was like, it gave you the pattern, and it's like, and then continue this. So
yeah, it's usually less European, at least in my experience, European designs tend to have less step by like row by row instructions, and more so just, and to me it doesn't really bother me, because I we can figure it out, and it does also save space in the pattern. But it's just a different skill to interpret that, right? Yeah.
And I mean, it feels like a challenge, and it feels like a challenge I'm ready to take on, and an adventure in terms of choosing yarn. I've never knit with mohair before, and an adventure in terms of figuring out how to navigate the pattern, because it looks like there are different pieces or triangles, but then you do the front, the back, trying not to give away the pattern, but it's knit seamlessly, and that's the point of her designs. It's called seamless knitting, and you know it in German.
Stricken ohne Naht is her design name. Yeah.
So I think it's really cool, and so we'll see if I when I finally get some yarn, how it comes together.
Yeah. So we started recording. We actually posted a picture on Instagram of what it looked like outside when we started, and now it's like pitch black. So we are going to wind up here.
But we'll be back in a couple of weeks to share our updates. In the meantime, continue to reach out, leave us some comments, let us know what you're working on. Use the hashtag #ClearTheNeedles2020 on Instagram so we can check out your work, and come chat with us on the Ravelry group.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So we'll see you again in a couple weeks.
All right.
Bye. Bye.